Hello YouTube, Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. With us getting towards the second half of April, it's only natural to start to look further towards May. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing here today. May tends to be a very interesting month weather-wise, and as a result, it's a month that needs to be monitored very closely. Typically, it is a very active month for tornadoes, but the pattern change, and usually the enso pattern will often be a big determining factor. If you watched my Hurricane Outlook video, link to that will be in the top right corner, by the way. We mentioned that we were going into an El Nino pattern. Sometimes that can affect severe weather. Sometimes that could lower the tornado count, but there have been some analogs where there have been some high counts in previous years. We're going to have to wait and see how that unfolds. But one thing to also note is the temperature changes that we could be seeing. So here's our temperature outlook right now. And towards the northwest, temps are slightly above average, or that's the probability that we have over there. Interestingly enough, though, towards Southern California, towards the southwest, we do have a pocket of below average temperatures possible, and there's a little bit higher confidence there. So that's something to make note of. Anywhere in the white here is an equal chance. And then we also have, of course, slightly below average temperature probabilities up north towards the Dakotas and Montana. But around the eastern half of the country, we have a slightly higher probability of above average temperatures. The one thing to note here, and I'm going to show this in a minute, as far as the temperature anomalies, it's not by a wide margin. So that's something to keep an eye on. That tells us that we could be dealing with a slightly unstable pattern through the month of May. And we'll talk about who could be affected by this weather-wise. Another thing to make note of here is also Alaska, which I don't get to cover much yet, but eventually I think we're going to get there. We have slightly above average temperatures towards the north and eastern sides of the state, and then for the rest of it, it's equal chances. So now we go to the Precip Outlook, and interestingly enough, right along that line between the above average and the equal chance, there is a pocket over here across the southeast that has a chance for above average precip. Moderate confidence there, and then also another interesting thing, after what seems like ages of increased winter weather activity across the Great Lakes here, it looks like we're going to be seeing a downtrend in precipitation here. And also the same can be said towards the northwest, which I find interesting. Another interesting thing to note is right along the western coast of Alaska here, we could be seeing some increased rainfall probabilities there for the month of May. We'll have to see how this pans out. A lot of things can change still. I mean, we're not even in the month of May yet, so how these first couple of weeks look will probably be very telling on what kind of anomalies we'll end up seeing, so to speak. So there's that, and then we actually are going to go ahead and take a look at some of these anomalies. Now, one thing that's interesting here for me is, even though we have the probability of above average rainfall, when I look to the southeast here, this yellow area tends to mean that we're slightly below average. And it's not by a wide margin, it's actually by very little. But I find that quite odd here. I'm going to actually try to see if I can refresh to the latest here. If anything, those colors seem to have deepened a little bit. Like I said, it's only looking like it's maybe about half an inch, maybe an inch off, but for seeing the probability of above average rainfall on the NECP, or NCEP, excuse me, and then seeing this, it does kind of throw me off just a tiny bit. Maybe there's something I'm still missing here, but I'm still learning about this. I haven't really done too much with climate videos until recently. I also see this little pocket develop over here towards the northeast where there's increased precip probabilities. But if we compare it to this, it's a little different. So it'll be interesting to see, because they do update this right towards the very end of the month. So there's a good chance that this Precip Outlook is going to look a little different. Of course, out west, we're seeing increased probability of precipitation. I'm trying to make sure I got this right. Make sure I'm on the right month here, but an increased precip a little bit further to the north in comparison to that map as well, which I find interesting. So there might be an indicator we could see some increased weather across the central part of the U.S. here. It's hard to say right now because we have what looks like a little bit of a model discrepancy here, but we'll see how this unfolds. Like I said, this was updated or issued on the 20th. They usually will do another outlook on the 31st. So a few more days, we'll kind of get a good idea of what's going on, and more than likely I'll end up making an update video for that. So when we go ahead and take a look at the temperature anomaly, and this is usually a telling sign of things, we've already begun to notice a trend here where cold air will be starting to settle into the eastern half of the country for a little bit here. This isn't going to hold forever, so don't be alarmed by seeing this, but the first week or so of May could be a little bit cooler than average. And that's my alarm going off. As I was saying though, this area right here is slightly cooler than average. This is more than likely going to be from the first couple of weeks of May. Then on the other half, I think it's going to be a bit warmer than average. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out here. It's not like the temperature contrast is going to be incredibly cold. This isn't going to be, we're going all the way back into January here. This could be where it's like 20 or 30 degrees for a lot of these areas. We're not seeing that, so don't be alarmed by that. But it's a nice little swath here that's gotten some below average temperatures. The above average temperatures are going to sink in, and if you look towards the June outlook, which is a spoiler more or less, look what happens by then. I mean, this is still hearsay given how far out this is, but the warming trend is coming, so don't worry. Summer is coming. So we're going to look at one other thing here before we get out of here. And that's going to be the height anomaly here. We had to get that set up here. Unfortunately, we don't have the full run available to us because the 06Z run, the morning run, is just now coming in. We're about halfway through it, so that's about as far as we look. This is going to be how we close out the month of April and start to take a sneak peek at May. I'll do an update video on this, of course, towards the very end of the month, as, of course, we are expecting an update to that outlook from the NCEP. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have going on right now. Here is what's more than likely to be our next big storm system here coming in on the 25th. There is a slight risk for severe weather that afternoon and into the evening towards Texas. It's going to be more so towards central Texas, maybe a little bit further out ahead of that. And then we could see 2 days of severe weather there as this low tries to deepen. Towards the 27th on Thursday, that's an eerie day for me. We do see a little bit of broadening from this area of cold air developing. There is a little bit of a warm sector that's possible right around here. I'm trying to get my pen up. So this is something to keep an eye on. We'll see if that ends up holding together and maybe creating a severe weather event. It's hoping that isn't the case, but Thursday evening could be a day to watch. So as we continue to roll forward here comes another big trough to end out the month. Not a lot of certainty to go with this system here, but I do think there is some severe weather potential again. I think this kind of leans more so towards Dixie Alley on this one. Again, with as far out as this is, 120 hours out, that's 5 days. So a lot to still be looked for on this one, but this is a very strong low that deepens. I just don't have a good, I can't really hammer down what's going to happen with this yet. There's a lot of questions with moisture return and also the instability here. But as we draw this forward, this is going to cause, like I said, this is going to be the big catalyst behind our below average temperatures here. And as we head into May, this is going to linger across the eastern half of the country. But another telling sign that we could be dealing with some pretty active pattern here is you see these couple of lows right here coming in. This could have implications on precipitation, and then also any warm air mass that moves to the east here ahead of this. There is a good chance that one of these is going to trigger off more severe weather. Where that will happen, we're still trying to figure out, because we're more than a week out at this point too. So a lot of uncertainty to be had there. But that's it for this video for now. If you enjoyed the outlooks here, if you enjoy any of the content here, whether you've been here for a while or you're new, go on and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the share button, of course, to anyone that you might anyone that you think may find this useful. And of course, comments are always welcome. I try to respond to all of them if I can. But anyway, I gotta get going. This has been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.